Datamax E-Class Mark III printer. I'm going to show you how to replace the printhead when you need to replace one for streaks. And so the first thing you do is open up the top, and then over here you'll have a little release that you push and then drop down this part here. And then up on the top you're going to have a couple little release latches that you have to feel and then push those toward the outside of the printer so that this part here drops down. Take your little springs here, just pull them off, set them aside so you don't lose those. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to, up under here you'll see there's a kind of a latch little pivot place, and you want to take this part here that has your cable and your connector, you want to get this out of the printer. So what you have to do is kind of push towards the back or towards the top of the printer, and if you can see up on top there's a cutout where it comes out. So you're going to lift that whole thing up and out of there and then swing this part down here. Then you want to take a pocket knife. You don't want too sharp of a knife or you might nick your wire, so just take a regular knife, and there's tabs on the sides of your connector here that you want to use the side of your hole here and kind of pry that connector out. Pull up that one side there, and then on the other side do the same thing, sort of just pry the connector out like this. Get that out. Once you've got that loose and out, then you want to undo this screw. This is the screw that holds the printhead in place. So unscrew that. You don't want to unscrew it until you take the connector out, or you'll have a hard time getting that connector out. So once that's loose, it won't come out, it stays in there. You've got these little latches again on the top of this part that you have to push in to get the last part to pop out. So you push towards the inside of the printer on both of these, and then this little black part here drops down, and then your printhead comes out. So take your printhead and just lay it down on the table there, because you want to compare it to your new one. So get your new printhead out of the box, make sure it's the same. No sense putting it in if it's not, or it won't work, and you'll be doing extra work for nothing. Okay, this is the hardest part, finding out how to open the printhead without cutting yourself. You'll get one of these from your office. It should be the right one. If it's not, you don't want to put it in. So take out the new one, just compare it, and it looks the same. Connector's the same. It's hard, it's connected to a hard plate across there. Everything looks the same. If it doesn't look the same on both sides, you don't want to replace it. So take your new one, place it up in there the same way you took the other one out. You want to put your connector so that it's up in this hole so that you can get to your cable and your connector. And this time it's sort of the opposite of before. You don't want to screw it in until after you have the cable plugged in, because it's hard to plug the connector in if you can't move the printhead. So take your connector, line it up with your connector on the printhead, take your cable, plug it in, get it started, and it's very, very stiff. It's a tight connector. So you want to get it started. So I've got it started. It's not done yet, but you want to get it started. Now, you want to go ahead and get this printhead, you want to get it in there so that it's flush, sitting in there nicely. You can feel in there that it's flush inside this black connector up in here, across the front, then screw it in. This will line up. Once it gets lined up and you can screw this into the printhead, you'll know that you have it in there right. So once it starts, it'll screw in there easily. You don't want to cross thread it, but usually it won't. So it's in there tight. Now you want to make sure you push your connector all the way in And it is pretty stiff, so push hard. You're not going to hurt anything except maybe your fingernail. Make sure your connector's all the way down. Okay, then you got to take this black piece, the last part that we undid the little latches, you got to push it back up, kind of wiggle it a little bit to get those latches to go back up through the holes on the sides here so that it'll click into place. Now it's latched again. Then you have to take your springs, get those ready. Probably before you put the springs on, take this part here. Remember, this is your this is kind of a pivot point that goes up in the top. You have to come around the top, and it's a little tight. The cable's almost like it's too short. So what you got to do is you got to just manipulate this thing until it gets over into the connect to the hole up in the top up here, and it drops down in there, and then you can see how it pivots now. Then once that's in place, take your springs. There's these little studs right here. You want to put the springs on your little studs right there. Put those in place. This is pivoting. Make sure it's still in place, that it's not just falling down. Then you lift it up. There's studs on the top part. You want to make sure you line up your springs with those. You've got the two little latches that push up through the holes on the sides here. Sometimes you have to wiggle it a little bit too to get them to go in through those holes. It'll go up through there to latch. It's spring loaded now. It doesn't open up because your latches are in place. Then you just close this last part here. This is the part that you had there. Then what you want to take, one of your little cleaning pencils that has the alcohol on it, and wipe down this to get off your fingerprints off of the print head. And pretty much done. Takes about 10 minutes.